All right, welcome everyone to the Chicago Football Connection podcast. I'm your host, Steve Letizia. Follow me on Twitter at CFC Bears, joined by my co-host, Luke O'Grady. Follow him on Twitter at Luke O'Grady. And we're talking Bears preseason week. Is this technically week one, even though the Bears already played week
Yeah.
one? The win over the Bills. Obviously, the results doesn't matter as much as the process and everything like that. So we're going to be going over everything. Obviously, we focus a lot on Caleb Williams because that was the big
Wow.
news of the day. But Luke, what are your instant reactions after you watched that game? What was your one big takeaway? Where are you leaning?
Yeah, I mean, I was golfing on Saturday, so I watched the Caleb Williams drive on my way out to the course, and then I was like, I'll catch the rest of the game afterwards, and I was able to catch
Yep.
up on it afterwards. But the whole day, it was all about just the couple drives I saw of Caleb Williams and how good he looked.
Yeah, he just looked like he belonged. He
Yeah,
looked like not maybe even more than that. I guess he looked more like he not only he belonged that, but he's going to be a very good quarterback very early on.
did some
Um,
stuff. He did some stuff.
I mean the throw. I mean the one that the play that everyone's talking about is the rolling out to your right, the ridiculous throw to Komet, but and with that's a fantastic play. The arm strength, the arm talent that takes to make is just incredible. But I think the plays before that were going through his reads and hitting DJ Moore on that little comeback route
So good.
for a first down on third down. Even the screen pass to DeAndre Swift was something not an easy play to make. Maybe we're getting a little too ahead of ourselves. I was talking about screen pass, but just everything he did looked poised and looked professional and looked like
Totally.
despite it being his first ever action in the NFL, uh, pretty much went about it as well as he could ask. Even the throw to DJ Moore that was dropped by DJ Moore, like that was a
Yeah.
hell of a throw too. So everything he did was even though it was only 7 throws was pretty good. So
Yeah.
it's impossible not to be optimistic as a Bears fan after watching that.
No, he took off on that third down, rushed for a first down, used his legs
Yeah,
well. The
yeah, that was a good one too.
he seemed like his he did everything in his in every play that he was in there. It seemed like he did the right thing he was supposed to do. He looked poised. It was cool watching him go through his movements. He's got such a good shoulder, man. That guy can
Yeah,
hum the ball so many times. Like maybe even he could have got a little bit quicker to the point in his read, but it didn't matter because
mm,
how strong his arm was. The one to Komet, I know it's like it's been beaten like a dead horse. We've seen it a lot for a preseason throw, but man, it was like 30 yards, 35 yards in the air on a rope, just rolling out. And
rolling, yeah, on the move.
like he talked about it in the press conference afterwards, like how he kind of set it up for himself, so you can see him do it, like the pump fake early to try and bring the safety down just that little bit. It's impressive stuff. It was impressive stuff. It was
Yeah,
also
I mean
against vanilla defenses, and
yeah,
it obviously doesn't mean it's always going to look that good, but it
right.
showed
But he did
quickly
everything you could ask for.
exactly, and it showed kind of all the
It,
reasons why he was so highly touted. He did some of the acrobatic stuff, the Mahomesian stuff on maybe the screen, and even just that first third
yeah,
down conversion, like coming backside, hitching in the middle to Keenan Allen before finishing with DJ Moore on the left and getting it there before the DB closed, which is awesome.
yeah. There are always two reactions after preseason games. It's either you're saying we're so good, we look so good, or it's other people saying, oh, it's only preseason, calm down, or your own team looks bad, and then you're the one saying it, it's only preseason,
I
it doesn't
know,
matter. So I'd much rather be on this other side where I'm hyping up the preseason than having to say, they don't look great, but hey, it's only preseason, it doesn't
right?
count yet.
Yeah, no
So
doubt.
I'd rather be on the side that we are at this point.
Yeah. It's
But
not it's
that
not
being said,
often
it is
this
only preseason.
happens.
It was only 7 throws, about like 10 dropbacks or whatever it was. So you can't get a lot from that, but from what we did get, it's a very encouraging start to Caleb Williams' career.
Yeah, and it wasn't just his. I mean, there's been
Yeah, a lot of guys played well.
lot of guys played well. There were some guys like, man, the mainstream media picked up Austin Booker this week and ran with him, and fair enough. He's been playing great. His hands look like they have a lot of pop. It'd be interesting to
Mm-hmm.
see how his game develops, man. I'm glad that he's on the Bears and he's not spending another year at Kansas doing that.
Yeah, I think Austin Booker. It is nice to see kind of the national media picking on to that, and I think the pop in his hands is something that he showed at Kansas a lot, but it wasn't necessarily in a lot of his scouting reports because I think a lot of people kind of build him as like this bendy freak speed
I kind of
guy,
thought so too.
and he's got that too, but he had a lot more pop in his hands than I thought he was given credit for pre-draft, and then I'm glad that is really showing up right away in the NFL. Like that's something that I did not expect. Even though I saw it on tape in Kansas, I didn't think that was he was going to come in right away and that was going to be kind of his calling card there. But
Yeah,
so far,
definitely.
it has been more of a power profile than a speed athleticism profile, and then
Totally.
just the motor that he has. He's always just
Yeah, man.
constantly moving, constantly doing something, using his hands to kind of get off blocks. He's not a lot of times with young guys, pass rushers especially. They get to the top of their arc and they just if it's not working, they just stop. But that's not what he does. If his initial rush plan doesn't work, like he's countering off of it. That's such
Yeah.
a great thing to see. Like it does kind of seem like at the very least you got a situational pass rusher that you're gonna have for a long time.
I know
Maybe
early.
you can be a little bit better at that, but it seems like he's at least gonna be a solid rotational player, like from
Totally.
for the next few years. So that's really good to see for a fifth round pick.
Yeah, full. It's especially considering that's one of the position groups on the team right now that feels like we have the least depth. There's
Yeah.
a lot of talk about the Bears going out and making a move still with before the offseason's over. And almost always that conversation is another pass rusher opposite Montez
Mm.
Sweat. If you can get some level of production out of Austin Booker this year, that would be huge for the outlook of the defense as a whole. That would turn like
Yeah.
a group that maybe has some question marks into a pretty solid middle of the pack group if you expect Montez Sweat to play as good as he did finishing up last year with this crew. Um, I would still probably expect the Bears to make look to do something there, maybe add a 1-year flyer on someone, but if they can get some more out of Booker in his rookie year and kind of view it like they did
Mm.
anyway, as like we'd rather you develop in an NFL weight room and on the Bears than at Kansas for another year. Like it's almost gravy anything he's able to produce. But so far, it looks like he really, he might have something. The Bears might have something there.
Yeah, and I mean, again, still early. With everything we're gonna say today is still the still early caveats. I don't think we have to say it every time, but still early. But yeah, he looked really good, and I do think, assuming he kind of the next couple weeks does similar things, like I think they would be comfortable rolling in with him as that third pass rusher
Yeah,
behind Sweat and Demarcus Walker. Could they bring in another guy? I still think that's a possibility, even if Booker's looking good. Like bringing in a guy like a 1-year flyer, maybe like bringing Yannick Ngakoue back or
yeah,
someone like that. There have been reports, maybe not reports, but we know that Matt Judon from the Patriots and now Hassan Reddick from
yeah,
the Jets might be on the trade block, and I think him doing well kind of maybe takes them out of those sweepstakes because you don't want to get a guy who's going to you're gonna have to give a big contract to and give a ton of playing time if you think you have a young guy who needs some development time. But bringing in like just a free agent 1-year vet, you don't have to give up any draft capital for
yeah.
him. You don't have to do anything
Exactly.
like that. Could still make some sense to get kind of a fourth pass rusher because after Booker, you really don't have a lot, and it would be nice to get kind of a third and fourth pass rusher in there.
Yeah, yeah. The outlook at like before like the Booker pick was probably that the Bears are gonna have to hit the pass rusher hard next off season,
Yeah,
and maybe like a move was still kind of coming. I don't think that maybe that changes with Booker, or at least if they can get someone that they expect to fill the role opposite Demarcus Walker, or like that third pass rusher role for the next year or two as you find out what you have with Booker, or who knows how fast he's able to come on, but
yeah,
I would still say that room would shape up a lot nicer if you weren't asking Booker to be the third best pass rusher on your team just yet.
yeah, yeah. I think he does. I mean, I don't know if I'm getting old now, so I don't know if a lot of people remember, but Mark Anderson, on like the 2005 Bears, like coming in as a rookie and getting a ton of sacks. I can't remember what he had, but as a
Yep.
rookie, kind of in a situational pass rush role, I do feel like that's something he could provide. I don't think he's going to be a double-digit sack guy, but get 4 or 5 sacks coming off the bench is
Yeah, that would be
hugely.
huge.
It changes the whole defense because that was something we going into this just a few weeks ago. It was like, okay, you got Montez Sweat and not a whole lot. We kind of hoping Javon Dexter is gonna step up. I haven't really seen too much from him this preseason, just in limited amount of snaps, and then hasn't done a whole lot with those snaps. It's only preseason, and he could still be that guy, but they really don't have that a defined second rusher yet, like
Yeah,
top tier. So
totally.
someone needs to step up. I don't know if it's Dexter. I don't know if it's Booker. I don't know. Maybe Walker took a step. I don't know, but it did seem like a few weeks ago it was like, man, we're not going to get any pass rush, and now it's like, okay, maybe there are avenues to kind of build a pass rush around Montez Sweat. And the Bears were also kind of blitzing a lot, disguised it. I think I felt like their defense was a little bit more, maybe to say not as vanilla as a typical, preseason defense is. They were kind of trying to generate pass rush another way, blitzing corners and stuff like that. And maybe that's what they're willing to. If they're willing to do that, that might help with the pass rush too. You don't need
Yeah,
to have a guy who's just wreaking havoc if you can get creative with your blitzes and everything like that. So
yeah, they
we'll
did
see.
that
It's
a
definitely
ton
something
last
that,
year.
yep, definitely something that we'll be monitoring over these next couple weeks as they
Yeah,
start narrowing down to the 53.
yeah. I mean, another name to look at, that Dan Hardy guy. That Dan Hardy guy's been playing
Yeah,
pretty all right. I don't know where he
yeah,
came from. He was on the practice squad of, I think, like the Patriots or the Broncos last year.
yeah. Hardy played well. I mean, Khalid Kareem played well. I thought
I
Jacob
know,
Martin.
it's true. I kind of
They've had
forget
a
about
couple
Khalid
pass
Kareem.
rushers at the bottom of the roster who are all kind of standing out a little bit at least.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
it
that's actually the depth of that room. It's like if you want to think about the Madden ratings, like we have a bunch of guys that are probably floating around 65 or so that
yeah,
aren't exactly needle movers, but like any two of the guys we've mentioned so far would be fine as your fourth and fifth pass rusher.
yeah, exactly. I think that's kind of goes for kind of like the entire roster. It just seems like the depth is stuff finally starting to come around with this team.
Yeah,
Just watch, like I was
competition.
been watching the all 22 of the game this last couple of days, and I remember watching it last year. I remember watching it 2 years ago and 3 years ago, whatever. And it just seems like even late into the game, there are guys who are playing well. Whereas 2 years ago, watching like the preseason all
I
22, like
know.
the third and fourth quarter, it's like none of these guys are doing
Yeah, it was
anything.
just Jack Sanborn.
Yeah, it was like just Jack Sanborn, and so it's nice where you could see like, oh, there's actually a couple intriguing guys
Totally.
at the bottom of the roster who might not be stars, might not even be starters, but guys who look promising and at least do not going to kill you if they do have to start at some point if there are injuries. So, and I think pass rushers is one of those where you have some guys who are like, okay, yeah, they're not starters, they're probably not even. They might not even register a sack this year. But if they get into the game because of injuries and they have to play, they're not gonna kill you. I thought offensive line was another position where a
Yeah,
lot of guys kind of stepped up. Matt Pryor looked really good at right guard, I thought, which was a
totally.
surprise because I didn't really think much of him when they signed him. He's played like tackle and guard and has had some success in the NFL, but nothing really more than like a spot starter and that's probably what he is. But he played really well the
Totally.
other day at right guard, and he puts a little bit of pressure on Nate Davis. It also makes me feel a little bit better if Nate Davis does. Who knows what's
Whatever's
going on
going
there?
on.
Whatever's going
What?
on there,
No, whatever, man.
if whatever it is,
It
if
like he
he
is
doesn't
such
play
a
like,
sugar on top type person right now.
yeah,
If your plans have Nate Davis in them, you don't have enough like risk analysis. He is not
yeah,
going to be there when you need him right now. It feels like, and if he comes around, like I said, it's gravy. But I think the Bears
yeah,
do need to kind of have like some thought about what that backup might look like. And Matt Pryor playing good is really good for us. And if it's one of the centers kicking over, whatever it is,
yeah,
it also
yeah.
makes you feel better about how good Tevin Jenkins has looked thus far. He's a mauler,
Tevin
man.
Jenkins
He's
looks so
he's
good,
so good.
especially in the run game. He
Yeah,
looks
he
just like
totally
quicker.
is.
I don't know if he maybe lost a little bit of weight. I mean, not that he was like unathletic before, not at all, but he just looked a little bit quicker off the ball, a little bit more
And man, when he
of
snatches
a
guys, he just
system.
doesn't let them go, man.
Yeah.
He's
So
moving
I mean
people.
that's
He's really good. He's in for a
I
big
mean
season. He's gonna they're kind of in a situation where he probably could have been a candidate for a new contract this offseason, but I think he feels like the sentiment around it is that he kind of wanted to bet on himself, have himself a really good year, and then bank in again and
yeah,
do it that way. And it's looking so far that like that could definitely be the case. In his limited
yeah,
reps, at least, he had a couple of highlight blocks against the Bills.
yeah. I mean it's just health with him. If he can stay
Yeah,
healthy
totally.
for you know at least like 15, 16 games, like then you feel comfortable signing to a contract. If he misses 6, 7 games, I don't think you can sign him to a contract.
Yeah,
You just can't take that. Or if you do, you sign him to no not a lot of guarantees and high incentive contract or something like that. I don't know what it would be, but when healthy, there's not a lot of guards better than Tevin Jenkins.
yeah.
It's just that's a big if with him is the health. So I really hope he stays healthy for all 17 games, just balls out, and
It'd
then
be
the
so
Bears give him
good.
a contract, and then he continues to stay healthy for 17 games a year, and
Totally.
just is a long time Bear because he seems like a guy. I mean, he's really fought too. It's like when Poles and the Eberflus took over, like it seemed like he was gonna get traded or cut or
Dude,
whatever, and he's just kind of fought back and battled and turned himself into a really good player. So that's always just a nice storyline to see. So,
that's totally true.
but yeah,
Yeah,
the
he's
depth
always
of
been a good
interior.
player.
Yeah, I mean, always been good. Yeah, I mean, you got him at left guard, and then it's probably gonna. My guess is Davis is not gonna start. It's gonna be Bates at right guard, and then you have Pryor
Right.
backing up, and Davis kind of just floating around doing whatever he's doing, and I think Jatari Carter played really well too.
As
He's
per
just a
usual.
solid guy. Yeah, every preseason he's just like this guy's like pretty good, and
Yeah,
like
he's better than the guys that they're making him play against.
right, and I don't, yeah, exactly. I think that's a good way to put it. He's better, like he's better than the second and third stringers that he's going
Yeah.
up against every preseason. I don't know if he's as good as the first stringers that he's not going up against.
Right.
But at least again, you feel comfortable with him on the roster, and you feel comfortable if he has to get forced into it. You're not
Yeah,
gonna
he's
hate that.
actually
So
like I think he's an awesome player a lot because he has depth.
mhm.
Like he'll if in a pinch he can give you depth across the line basically.
Yeah,
It's never fun
he played
asking someone
tackle.
to play left and right switch. I don't know if he has a
Yep,
specific preference, but I know center out to at least one side. He has experience playing all of them, and he's looked good
he
in like
he
moments.
played tackle in the Hall of Fame game a little bit for
There
like
you go.
10 snaps or so. I don't think he didn't play tackle this week, but it's something he's clearly working on. I remember seeing him at tackle
Yep.
in the at training camp too, so it's something he's doing. And if he could just do that, man, that's a really valuable player.
Yeah,
And the tackles, I mean Jones and Wright, I thought looked pretty good.
yeah. I
I
actually
did Larry
I haven't
Borom
really
look
heard
great,
anything
but
about their performance, and like I said, I didn't watch it live.
yeah, it's they didn't play a ton of snaps. They only played the 2 series or whatever it was, so it's hard to say. But I thought both. I don't think either of them really got beat a lot. I mean, they did a lot of play action rollouts
Right.
with the offensive line, so it's hard to look bad as an offensive lineman when you're moving the pocket like that. So not a lot of just like a small sample size, but I think in the reps they did have, they looked fine. But I thought the offensive line as a whole played really well. I mean,
Yep.
even the straight dropbacks that Williams had,
Mm.
I thought they held up nicely. And the one time it did break down a little bit, he got out of there and got upfield and made a play with his legs. So
Yep. And
I
the
feel
stuff
a
with
lot
the
better
rollouts
about the
and
offensive line.
yeah, I think the stuff with the rollouts too should kind of help the offensive line all year. Put them in some good
Yep.
positions and make it so that, all they have to do is kind of get in front of their guy for at least a couple of reps and not always put them on islands and such.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah,
you
and
have any
I think
thoughts
that's
on
the
the
difference
running back
between.
usage?
Well, so they started with Swift, and then Roshan Johnson was hurt, so then Khalil Herbert came in. So I have thought my thoughts on the running back purpose usage as a whole is I don't understand why everyone hates Khalil Herbert. He's a really
I'm
good
not
running back.
sure, dude.
Like I don't understand why he when they played last year he was much better running back than Roshan Johnson was.
I thought so.
Roshan Johnson did not do anything really impressive last year at all. I understand that they drafted him and they did not draft Khalil Herbert, but as a pure runner, that's to me it's not close. Khalil Herbert's a better player. Uh, I mean, if you're talking about pass blocking, I thought Herbert actually did well last year, and Roshan Johnson did okay. I think Herbert actually really took a big step forward with pass blocking last year, and even as a receiver a little bit, he's still not a great receiver. But I don't think Roshan Johnson's a great receiver either. I think he has better hands than Herbert, but he's not a guy that you're going to create mismatches with on a linebacker.
Yeah.
And neither of those guys are. I think Swift can be that, but like so really to me it comes down to with those two rushing ability, and to me Herbert's way better. So we'll see how that shakes out once Roshan Johnson comes back healthy and what the rotation looks like. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I also think Herbert is not much worse than DeAndre Swift as a runner, at least to be honest.
I think
But
he
it
might be
seems
the
like
best runner of the rock on the team. Honest to God, I don't know if I've ever thought that DeAndre Swift is an amazing runner of the rock. Although I did love him coming out.
no.
So like I can understand like if people don't remember, like he really did have a lot of hype coming out. It was a pretty awesome prospect. I love his fit on the team as like a receiving back. The Bears like
Hmm.
obviously had no clear answer in that department, and then they get one of the better ones in the game, 100%.
Yeah.
But as a pure runner, I don't know if I would have said DeAndre Swift um, was better than Khalil Herbert, and honestly, it's surprising to me that that isn't like the general consensus. It doesn't seem like
Yeah.
this like staff is very high on Herbert, and I'm not sure why. Like you can't
Yeah.
find me a reel of Khalil Herbert with a bunch of bad runs. You can't.
Right.
He's a fine running back, and on top of that, he's cheap. Like, what
Right.
is he doing starting in the Hall of Fame game? I understand like the depth chart's not huge, but you can give a lot of guys reps, and Travis Homer could be there. You know
Yeah.
the roster's like 90 people at that point. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
it
I don't
feels
really
weird, and then
understand
like
either.
it doesn't seem like this regime loves him. Like you get 2 snaps from basically DeAndre Swift, and then they get him out of the game, and then they're pounding Khalil Herbert in the preseason is maybe just a little
Yeah.
weird to me.
Yeah, no, I would like to see. I think Swift and Herbert can be a really good kind of 1-2 punch, even though they're kind of similar players and styles. I don't think you need like a thunder and lightning type thing. I think you just have two really good running backs, or at least good running backs, and kind of just use them both just ride the high hand, keep them fresh, and just do that. With Roshan Johnson kind of rotating in and out as well from time to time, just to keep everyone a little bit fresh. But yeah, it does seem like Swift's going to be the guy with Herbert and Johnson kind of rotating in, which
I know.
I don't love as much. I would rather see more of a committee, but I understand they gave him a lot of money, or at least a good amount of money, so they want to use him, which makes sense. But to
Totally. They
me,
gave
I would love to see Herbert and Swift kind of just a 1-2 punch. I think that'd be really successful. So I don't know. We'll see how that plays out the rest of the preseason.
Yeah, I don't want them getting.
But I do
I don't
think,
want them getting in a position where they get like pigeonholed by those roles. Like if Khalil
yeah,
Herbert's in, we're running, and if DeAndre Swift's in, then they're throwing
yeah,
or whatever it
yeah,
is.
yeah. That's something that Luke Getsy loved to do. All the time. And Matt, that was more of a Matt Nagy thing, to be honest.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, he had his guys for pass downs, but
yeah,
like by the same merit, if you're going to do something, do it well.
yeah, yeah. But I do think I will say I think this team's going to run the ball a lot. I think that with how often they've been under center in training camp and how often they were under center in the last 2 games, like I think this is going to be a lot of play action boots, get the pocket on a move, run the ball a lot. So draft DeAndre Swift and Khalil Herbert in fantasy because I think they're going to get a lot of touches.
Interesting. I was actually just thinking about that, and like as much as I love having Bears players in fantasy, it's been a couple of years since I've been like I don't know if I can draft any of these guys. I just don't know
Yeah,
what they're going to do. So you think it'd be worth getting some stock in DeAndre Swift? Eh? Where is he going these
I
days?
would say I just had a draft and I drafted him. I think I drafted like 6th round or something, so it wasn't bad.
Damn. Okay.
Get a starting running back in like the 6th round. So yeah,
Dude, that would
not
be a
that bad.
great
I
pick
think
if
that's
they get around there.
yeah. I think that's going to be kind of their identity. Which I don't hate at all because I think even though Caleb Williams I think is going to be a really good quarterback, it's tough to just come right in to the NFL right away and be in a you know
Totally. Yep.
11 personnel every snap and just let him throw the ball willy nilly. Like that's tough. Now that's really tough to do. So
Totally.
anything you can do to make his job a little bit easier, have field reads
Yep.
and move
And
in the
when
pocket,
he
stuff like
is
that, it's gonna
thrown
be a
in,
good
it's
thing.
Keenan Allen or DJ Moore makes it pretty easy.
Right. Now, if it's year 3 and the Bears have to be running this play action boot offense to protect their quarterback,
Right.
that's when you could be a little bit, okay, this isn't the guy. But to start
Totally.
off, get his feet wet, get him some high completion throws, get him some easy throws, easy reads, just levels, low to high. That's
You know what's funny, man, is like this is so logical,
mm-hmm.
and it feels like the same kind of way that we approached like talking about the Fields conversation. And in the first year of Fields, when we were doing
Yeah,
this, we were saying the same thing. We were saying,
yeah,
we got to see this guy get better. I don't care if we lose every game again this season. We're probably not winning the Super
yeah,
Bowl this season, but
right,
um, Caleb Williams has looked good, but the rest of the world has caught up. Like we knew this team like had opportunities to be good, and like even like 7 or 8 months ago when it was like the stars were aligning that we were going to get Caleb Williams too. Like it looked like we had the resources to really put this thing in gear, but the rest of the world has caught up, man. And we're like, I'm seeing people saying Bears to the Super Bowl and stuff, and it's like, okay, now we're getting reverse. We're
yeah,
getting the reverse because it's like stuff like us saying, hey, you know what, if we're a little bit more run heavy because we're just like we're helping our guy out. It's his first year. You let him see some NFL defenses before, we got to lean on his shoulders. Someone's going to be like, well, if you can't lean on his shoulders, how's he going to take you to the Super Bowl this year? It's like, well, that isn't what it's about.
Yeah, exactly. It's getting him comfortable. And, maybe this changes even this year. Maybe it's later this year you go into more, just 11 personnel straight dropbacks. But I love
Yeah.
the play action. I love getting guys in motion. Anything you
It
can
fits
do to
Caleb's
just give
game.
your offense
Honestly,
an
it
edge.
does.
It does, yeah.
Gets him back in
It's gonna be
space
good for him.
more. Gets moving
Yep.
pockets, which he's great with. And
Yeah.
it gives DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, technicians some time to run routes. Like,
Yep. Yeah, and I thought DJ Moore, it looked good. Keenan Allen, I don't think got a catch. Odunze didn't look great in what I saw, but again, it's still late for him. And I'm not worried about Rome Odunze being a successful pro at all. So,
yeah,
but I think I would really like to see next week, which I don't. It sounds like the Bears might not even play their starters because we got the joint practices with the Bengals this week. But if they do, I'd love to see Caleb just get an easy throw to Rome Odunze like first play of the game, just something to kind of
get him working.
get him working. Yeah.
Bears and Bengals are doing a share practice this week.
Yeah, I think it's the Bengals, right? That's what we play next week. Pretty sure it's the Bengals. Yeah, Bengals. So yeah, joint practice is starting Thursday, I believe, and I know the Bengals have already said that they probably won't play their starters this in the game because of the joint practices. They said the joint practices is enough, and the Bears honestly would not surprise me to see them do the same. But I think that would be a mistake because I think Caleb Williams needs to, and most of the offense needs to get as many reps against other teams as possible. So if it were up to me, I would absolutely play them, but we'll see. I mean, like I said, the Bengals have already said they're not going to, but that's a little bit different when you have Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, and they have they've been in the league for a good amount at this point. So it's a little bit different when you have Rome Odunze and Caleb Williams, who are both rookies. Like you should probably want to get them a few more snaps in the preseason. So we'll see. I hope they play.
The Bears shouldn't let how the Bengals are approaching it change the way they should approach it. I would hope they have a plan in place already. And I hope that plan would be to get some more reps. I think the way the Bears went about it was good. I'm actually pretty excited to I was just thinking about how I never really went and specifically looked at it from the tackles point of view, and it's pretty vanilla in the preseason, so maybe it's not a hugely important thing to go watch. But the way that assuming both are healthy, because it's kind of been an issue, but it feels like they both are. The way that Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright come on this year is going to be huge for the Bears. I think both are kind of in a year where there's expected to be a bit of a jump from them. I think it's been a bit of an issue with putting it all together with Braxton Jones. He's shown a lot of really good tape, but he's also shown some stuff that people think may limit him. But I know PFF picked him as the candidate for one of their big breakout candidates this year, and I thought it was funny because I would have said it maybe to Darnell Wright, because I thought the high end Darnell Wright tape last year was awesome, man. I thought it was fully so good, felt so good by it, and thought maybe he got even done a little dirty sometimes by Justin Fields. And I think if that duo can play on the upper side of what their range of distribution is this year, man, the offensive line could be awesome. And if that's the case with how the rest of the offense is built, the skill that's around Caleb Williams, I think saying something anywhere from 9 to 10 wins is possible, and getting into the playoffs in a year where you're trying to temper expectations anyways would be a huge win.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, I think the biggest question mark on offense was the offensive line, and still is the offensive line. So you're right. Yeah.
Totally.
If those two guys play at an above average level, that makes me feel a lot better. If Tevin Jenkins is healthy and playing like we know he can, that's a solid player. If Coleman Shelton can just be solid at center, that's an upgrade of what we've had the past year. Who knows what's happening at right guard, whether it's Nate Davis, Pryor, or Bates, whoever it is. If any of those guys can play at an average level, then you're looking pretty good. You're looking at a really good offensive line. If you have 3 average guys and 2 above average guys, or 2 average guys, 1 really good player, and then 2 above average guys, that's a really good offensive line. And now is the biggest question. And if you give Caleb Williams enough time back there, he's going to find DJ Moore. Keenan Allen's going to get open. Roman
Totally.
is going to get open. Cole Kmet's going to get open. Jared Everett's going to get open. DeAndre Swift's going to get open. Like those guys are going to get open eventually.
Totally.
Just give them time. So if that happens, then they should win double-digit games, honestly, if that's the case, assuming everyone else stays healthy. So, yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, the things that you like when you talk about like the tackle play, like if they perform to their upper limits, it's kind of similar to how you talk about the defense as well. Because like if the defense is what the defense was the last 5 or 6 weeks of the season last year, even with now some more players joining that. If the defense is that good down, like as they were down the stretch, like that's a defense that's good enough to carry a team that may not be great on offense. Now,
right?
Like how lucky can the Bears get this year? I guess is like injuries happen to all kind of teams. Regressions happen to all kind of players, things like that. But like if they get the higher end performance from their tackles, for example, and their defense plays towards that end of the season limit most of the season, the Bears could be great, but. Like at the end of the day, it does all hinge on the quarterback, and he's just a rookie.
Right. So yeah, still a lot of. No matter how good we think he's going to be, there's still questions there.
He did play good though, and for a first game so far, I know it's just vanilla defenses, and it probably would be the easiest stuff he'll see as a rookie.
But it's also vanilla offenses too. To that effect, like you're not doing anything, crazy with trick plays and anything to, tip your hand at all. So yeah, you might be facing pretty vanilla defenses, which they definitely were because there's a lot of like single high, just like cover 3, just not really disguising it. But again, they're just running simple route combinations and stuff like that too. So I think there's so much to be positive about. And nothing really to be negative about just yet. I'm sure.
I know.
That's the thing. I'm like next week. I'm sure he'll probably throw an interception in the next week.
That would be good.
Last week or whatever. It might be. Yeah, maybe that's a good thing. But like, it's important not to overreact to that when that happens. Too,
yeah.
So
the honestly, probably a little bit off topic, but across the NFL too, a lot of the rookie quarterbacks this year looked good, man. It could be the preseason effect, but that's not the case all the time. And it's good to see Jaden Daniels is doing some stuff. JJ McCarthy was moving the ball well, which let's take it for what you will.
Penix, good well. Even Nick's had a decent game.
Yep.
Nick's kind of just doing what he does, just getting the ball to his playmakers. I think all of them, from what I saw, I didn't watch every single game, but just from watching the highlights and stuff, like it's pretty cool to see other young quarterbacks doing well. Just I'm not. I mean, besides JJ McCarthy because he's on the Vikings, I'm not rooting against any of those other guys.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see.
Our QB looked good. How often do you say that?
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. If our QB is looking good, then we'll gladly root for those other rookie QBs. If our QB starts to look bad, I will root against every single one of those other QBs. I'm like, fuck those guys, they suck.
The Bears better. The Bears fans were so close to having just weekly football of actual quarterback play, or at least the aspirations of having it. Again, when the season starts, so it's like we're clamoring for 10 plays every week. You're like, man, you better play them against the Bengals. But if it isn't the starters, is there anyone else you're looking at? Anyone else from the first regular season game that you thought was making some plays or gave themselves a chance to move up the depth chart?
Let's see. So non-starters. I mean, obviously Booker. Looking at him. I want to see. I don't know if Karan Amagaji is going to be playing at all because he's been hurt. So it'd be nice to see him get into some action. Obviously, all the rookies. I think Ian Wheeler, the running back from I can't remember who played college, but undrafted free agent. I thought he looked pretty good this last game. They just signed a D tackle, Jalen Hutchings from Texas Tech, who I loved in the draft, and he went undrafted, and no one picked him up, or maybe someone picked him up and then he got released. I don't know, but I really want to watch him. He probably has a 0% chance to make the roster because he was obviously signed so late here. But man, I just want to watch him because I loved watching him in college.
What does it take to make the roster at that defensive tackle spot this year? You think how many do you think they're going to carry?
probably no more than 5 at least. So they got Billings, they got Dexter.
Billings and
There's
the
your
rookie.
starters.
Billings and I guess they're not rookies anymore.
Yeah,
Pickens and
and you got
Dexter. I always kind of feel like they're just the rookie boys together. But those
right.
those three.
Those 3 are locks.
Yeah.
Who? Let me look at their depth charts. I can't think of who's their like 4th D tackle. Howard, is that who it is? I'm pulling it up. That's it. So Byron Cowart, however you pronounce that, is kind of their 4th guy. I think you got 3 guys who are locks, and then he has been playing well. And then after that, you really don't have much. You have like 4 undrafted. Actually, 5. You have those 3 guys that we think are locks, and then 5 undrafted free agents.
Wow.
In different years, but they're all undrafted free agents at some point. So that's wide open for that 4th, maybe even 5th spot. I don't know if they'll keep 5 or not, but they'll at least got to keep 4. So it's kind of wide open for any of those guys to.
It is, and I think they feel. Really
I do think Coward probably the leg up.
Yeah, and I think they feel comfortable with that first 3 as their rotation anyway, like the Billings, Pickens, and Dexter.
Mm-hmm.
Enough where you probably get down into your 4th D tackle only ever so often.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Especially because you're gonna have DeMarcus Walker cut, and even potentially Montez Sweat, and even Dominic Robinson moving to kind of inside at times. That we saw it last year. They're gonna do that again. So that might be. They probably will only keep 4. I don't think they would keep 5 because
how many they kept last year?
Kind of move all around.
It's funny because last year
I would imagine they took
DeMarcus Walker a defensive tackle almost last year.
Yeah, we were kind of talking about that, kind of where he's going to play, because he played both with the Titans and wherever else he was before. But yeah, I think my guess is they only kept 4. I don't think you could keep 3. That doesn't seem like enough. I think you have to at least keep 4.
I got it right here. Oh.
Just look. You pulled it up.
Yeah, I pulled it up, and they do this where it's like they do it like a slideshow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Here we go. No, they do have it by position though, so it's actually not so bad. Okay, so we're through the O line, defensive tackles. Justin Jones, that's right.
Oh yeah. So okay. Justin Jones, and then those 3 other.
Yeah.
Those the 3 guys that we currently have, and then Justin Jones was our 4th. So they kept 4. Yeah. So yeah, that 4 spot's wide open. So.
And that's kind of the natural progression too. I think when you take back-to-back picks with Dexter and Pickens, you're like, one of these guys is going to have to be the Justin Jones next year. And I think that's looking like so far that's Dexter. Looks like Dexter's kind of made that next step. The way the people around him talk about him seems like he could be in for an improved season at that compared to what he was as a rookie. And I'm not sure you hear the exact same kind of hype about Pickens so far. He did have a couple of sacks in the game, but that felt more like right place, right time.
Yeah, for sure. He made a couple of nice run stuffs, but then he also had a couple of run plays where he kind of got washed out. So it's like it's either like very good or very bad on like a snap by snap basis. So it's interesting. I don't know. Well, I think he's gonna eventually settle into a good backup.
Yep.
So which is fine.
Yep. What more?
But if you could just cut down on some of those, use a 3rd round pick.
Yeah.
Right.
Take
top of the 3rd round. So whatever, you get it back up out of the 3rd round. That's perfectly fine. But yeah, if he could just cut down on some of the bad plays and just the other plays kind of stay where he is, that's fine. It'll be a solid backup for you, and then that's perfectly fine. So we'll see. But yeah, that is actually maybe an under talked about kind of camp battle is that 4th D tackle spot. I think Cowart is kind of his job to lose, but
I think so too. And he has looked good, like we've said.
Mm-hmm.
It will be interesting to see how they that whole defensive line room fills out too. If there's still a move to be made on for either of those positions, if they want to add some talent that way, or if not, does someone like a Dan Hardy find his way into the final 53? He played good in the first 2 games. He really has, honestly.
Yeah.
And
I thought
if you watch the Booker highlights, it's hard to not see 92 back there a lot of the time as well.
Yeah, and I thought Dominic Robinson has actually flashed a little bit this preseason, which is more than I could say for him the last couple of years because he really hasn't done much. But he was always a guy that was super raw and was going to take a while. So maybe it
Totally.
just takes 3 years for him to get to even an average player. Uh, I'm not gonna. I mean, I think Booker has been better than him, and he's still kind of on the roster bubble. But I think he has
Right.
flashed a little bit more than I was kind of expecting. So
Yeah.
again,
And
he would probably
honestly,
have when you're cutting good when you get to your 53 cut down and you have to make tough decisions and you might even cut a decent player like that's a good problem to
dude, totally. And another thing, man, shout out polls. Imagine how different this conversation would be if you didn't go and make the move to get someone like a Montez Sweat.
have.
That room is abysmal. And now it's like, okay, who else do we have besides this? Like, honestly, one of the better, as far as like having now become more familiar with his game and knowing how good he is against, the pass and the run, and assuming
Yeah,
he's ascending. The level of his play nearing the end of last season was really, really impressive. Um,
yeah,
like having him be the player and all these guys just be the people like what we're looking for opposite that is so much better than if we had who knows, not been able to afford the contract extension he was looking for and weren't able to
yeah,
make the trade and had to go and sign the bell of the ball in free agency as opposed to getting him locked up for what was it, 4 years now? 4 more years?
yeah. Whatever it was. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, you're sorry. I mean, and even just kind of seeing what we're seeing now with Jets and Hassan Reddick trading for a guy and actually getting the extension done.
Dude,
Because
serious.
the Jets are in rough shape right now with Hassan Reddick. They basically have to give him whatever contract he wants because they're. I mean, I know that's a sunk cost, but man, they would look. Joe Douglas would look so bad if he trades Hassan Reddick for like significantly less than what they traded for him. That would be one of the worst trades of all time. So the fact that they were able to get Montez Sweat in the building and sign him just after a couple days like was so big.
Especially considering how much better he made that defense as soon as he got
Yep.
there.
Yep.
Instantly, as soon
Oh,
as he got
instantly
there,
better.
everybody else played with more swagger. The
Yeah.
it would be funny though, man. Did you see the post that the Jets came out with about that?
How about the
The
yeah?
J-
Uh, that they're not
Making
going
the
to trade him.
statement, yeah, we do not negotiate with terrorists.
We do not negotiate with players who haven't played a snap with the Jets, and then everyone was just like, "You did that for Aaron Rodgers."
Totally.
Like,
Yeah, 100%. It is. It's interesting. You have to imagine there was some sort of really weird disconnect between them, where they felt like they were
yeah,
closer than they were, or like they were like, you know what, we'll get it done, we'll get it over the hump,
right.
and then like there was just no recourse or
Yeah,
something. But honestly, I would say that the Bears probably aren't in a position to be going and making a move like that. I mean, they're not. They're not that they're not in a position, depending on what compensation we end up getting back for Justin Fields. We have a ton of draft capital in the next year too. Really, like we'll
sure.
have an extra fourth or call it an extra fifth because we're not sure yet. An extra fifth
Yeah,
and an extra second.
yeah,
We could technically go and make a move for someone like that. We probably could make the cap space work as well. Uh,
yeah,
but we're probably a year away from doing something like that. You know what I mean?
yeah. It just seems like that would be. I wouldn't hate it. I know because you're getting a good player for like a second round pick or whatever we trade for him. It would probably would be. It'd probably be like a third or a fourth even. But I just don't think that's needed right now, especially with the way Austin Booker has been looking.
Hmm.
And I think it's I almost feel like you just want to keep building through the draft at this point. If you are going to trade, I mean, I don't know if you can get a guard. Honestly, that would probably be better.
Yeah.
To use them if you're trading for someone at this
That's a
point,
really that's a
just
really good
solidify that
point. With
offense
the
a little
way
bit.
that the Booker contract kind of plays out, the only moves that you want to make at that edge position right now are 1 or 2 year moves at the most. Where it's
Right.
like if you have something with him, you can pass off the reins and you don't have any dead money there, where you could be getting value somewhere else. Whereas if you sign like a
Yeah.
Hassan Reddick and you're giving him
And
25 million a year, and you find out that Booker's great too. Then you get
right.
into the situation where you're losing Bryce Huff to the Eagles. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. And you'd have to give up draft capital to get him. So you're giving up draft capital and you're spending money. It's just I feel like I would not rule out bringing in a vet as a free agent off the street because that's just money. You bring him out on a 1 year deal, and you can
Yeah,
kind of just and then you have four good pass rushers, and that's nice to have. But
yeah.
uh,
It's interesting.
Hassan Reddick and Matt Judon are better than Austin Booker
Ooh,
at least right now. Like that, I'm
Judon.
willing to admit that. But it's the upside. I don't think is there with either of those two guys, and you do the money, and I don't think that's
It's
needed
also
right now.
like, this isn't exactly we're if you can accept that this is like the last we're not in win now mode year
Mm-hmm.
for foreseeably, who knows? Let's not get over ourselves. At least the next 4 years. If
Right.
this is the last one that you're not in win now mode, you don't need to be sinking money into it. If you find out by the end of the year you have something in Caleb Williams, there's still a lot. You're going to have 10 draft picks in the next draft, and the second we'll have top 10 cap space going into the next offseason as well. Like, the Bears can do things. It doesn't need to be right now just for the sake of it. And like we said, it gives the opportunity for someone like a Dom Robinson to really, blossom, or an Austin Booker to come into his own without having to almost artificially inflate the roster.
For sure. For sure.
But it is interesting. Like, we got 2 1.5 preseason games in the books, but you're starting to get a real idea of what this roster is going to look like. I would say that right now, if you have 53 spots on the roster, it's starting to become pretty evident who 45 of those are going to be. And I bet tomorrow when Hard Knocks comes out, they'll probably already be starting to hint about who those roster bubble people will be.
Yeah.
You're probably going to remember the name. They're going to make a sweetheart of Dan Hardy or something.
Yep. Yeah, I think you're right. 45 of them kind of locked in. Then you have that fourth, fifth pass rusher. You got your fourth D tackle, like we're talking about.
Yeah.
Which quarterbacks are going to make? I think the cornerback. Yeah, I think the cornerback
have
battle
3 locks.
Is interesting. Well, I think Tyson Bagent has been the QB2 so far, but I think he's been outplayed by Brett Rippon.
Oh, sorry, you said quarter. I thought you said corner.
Quarter.
Yeah, I know. I think that those will benefit from the new rule. I think all 3 of those guys will hang around all year.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because I thought the same thing.
A lot of different.
Brett Rippon has played way too good. He's gonna shove Bagent off his roster, but it was you get the emergency, you get the 54th spot. So they'll probably carry 3 quarterbacks all year. They'll have the vet presidents, and it seems like everybody loves Bagent.
Yeah, and then you get Austin Reed on the practice squad.
Yeah, and we love Bagent. Yeah. We do.
Yeah,
he has 2 wins.
I mean, he's not a good quarterback, but he seems like a good guy.
Lost those games, would have been better on those, but that's all right.
I actually really liked him in Hard Knocks because he was asking Austin Reed. He's like, "This is I don't know. I thought this was hilarious." He's like, Austin, do you have any?" Or maybe it was Rippon. I can't remember. Anyone born on your birthday or something? And he's like, "Yeah, O.J. Simpson and Tom Hanks." And he's like, "Yeah, I'd say it in that order." And I think that's pretty funny.
Yeah, he is good.
So he's a vibes guy. He was giving a pregame speech too. So you gotta keep that guy.
100%. I was having the thought about it already when I watched Ripien play the first game. And then I was thinking about it watching Hard Knocks. And when he broke it down, I was like, you don't even really let that guy break it down if there's a chance he's getting cut, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it'll probably be those 3. I think cornerback is interesting. That's something where it's after those top 3 guys, and Terrell Smith. You start to. They'll probably keep 5 or 6 just because they're probably good for special teams and such and what. And they'll probably keep maybe 3 safeties, we'll say. But it'll be interesting to see who 5 and 6 will be. I think 4 are pretty locked in, and then there's some good talent in that room about who's going to come out.
Jalen Jones has played well, and he's in this preseason. He's also played well the last couple of years.
Yep.
Josh Blackwell. We've always been a fan of his. Greg Stroman is.
Stroman's a baller. He's a full baller.
Yeah, a couple that's and one of those guys. At least one of those guys probably isn't making the roster.
It's crazy.
So, yeah, that'll be interesting to see. I think safety's pretty much kind of locked up. I got the depth chart in front of me right now. Linebackers pretty much locked up.
Linebackers another one that is just
Michael Baskerville. He looked really good last preseason. He's looked good this preseason. He didn't make the team last year, but
it's another position that it's and unlike the offensive line, there's a ton of top end talent that is good in that group. Sanborn has played great in the NFL when he's needed to. Terrell Edmonds has shown flashes, but Terrell Edmonds is also 26 years old with 5 years experience, freak athlete. He should only get better because also he doesn't even need to be the best linebacker on the team. That's Edwards. Edwards is sick, nasty. That group with Baskerville too, and who did we draft 2 years ago?
Noah Sewell.
Noah Sewell, like rounding out that room, that's probably in the conversation for one of the best like total rooms on the team. Like right up there,
Yeah,
I'd say with cornerback or wide receiver. A wide receiver is probably the first one. You got a ton of Pro Bowls in that groups.
sure.
But
Yeah, and linebacker, another guy who's just been kind of like popping whenever I watch is Carl Jones Jr., number 50. I don't know where he's an undrafted free agent. I don't know where he's from. I didn't watch his tape in college, but every time I watch the Bears, the All-22, he's been making plays. So he's been around the ball. So another guy like probably a practice squad guy, but you got a lot of just options there. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Offensive line, that's always interesting. But I'm probably gonna. I think after this, I'm gonna just go through and just kind of do like a prediction, 53-man roster prediction. That'll probably I'm gonna do it just for my own purposes because I'm curious kind of how it looks when you start just going position by position.
You probably even will have to think to yourself, is there a very obvious like free agent move and take a risk on something? That's a good idea. I think, I think like, we got 2 more games probably. I think the fourth preseason game, you won't see any starters. So 2 more preseason games that really matter before like those take shape. But it's exciting times, man. The Bears roster is going to be good.
We're so close from real football. Less than a month.
So close to real football.
I mean, I love watching preseason. It's fun to watch like the guys who, the young guys and the guys who probably aren't going to make a roster. But man, I am just itching for a real game and to see Caleb Williams drop back and throw 40 times.
Oh my goodness! And you know what? Like the last couple seasons, especially in the twilight of Justin Fields' career with the Bears, like it was like almost going to work, going and watching these games, man. Yeah, it was like whatever.
Going into even last year, going into every game, it's like, okay, well, we're not going to win. We're not going to go to the playoffs, but maybe Justin Fields will look good. And now it's like, well, maybe Caleb Williams will look good and we'll make the playoffs.
As soon as we lost for both Packers in week 1, it was like, It was exactly kind of. It was just as deflating as every other time we lost the Packers in week 1, but we're not going to go there. But it's fun again, thinking, you know what, this is a season where I do want us to win every game that we're in.
Yeah,
and I didn't.
And rooting hard to win a game.
100%, no matter what, because at the end of the year, even if we're like 6-8, or wherever we are, if the win doesn't matter down the stretch, like in the past, I've been in, like, especially during the rebuild before we had Caleb Williams, it was like, tank as much as you can, maximize draft value, and then go from there. Like this year, those wins matter to these teams, especially considering we got a very obvious 4-year plan around Caleb Williams right now. Every game this year matters.
Yeah.
You want to see them compete at the very least. You want to see them compete around the quarterback, and in the games when they don't matter, the games where they don't win, you don't want to see them get bullied at least.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just gonna say. You're gonna lose games, obviously, but you want them to be 27-24, or close games.
You want the whole NFL to be like, dude, we don't want to play the Bears.
Exactly, and I think that's kind of trending that way.
Dude, totally.
And it's like it's so different because now it's like we don't want to play the Bears because they have so many weapons, which has never happened. So like usually we don't want to play the Bears because we're gonna score 10 points. It's gonna be a battle. Now it's we gotta figure out a way to stop
what's going on with the Bears. Yeah, it is. It's it is interesting, man. I think
for sure.
If the Bears get a couple wins early, they could get hot. The Tennessee Titans first week is starting to look really, really primo.
Yeah, they got some injury issues. Their right guard just retired.
Yep, peace. Smell ya. That's how much he likes Will Levis. Yeah. Even though honestly, we're not Will Levis haters here. I'm slightly bullish on Will Levis. I think the guy's good.
All right. Our buddy Tom Cavanaugh picked him in the fantasy draft. So.
Oh, did he? Yeah. Any other thoughts? That's about an hour on it.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty much everything. I think we covered everything. I think
insanely encouraging first preseason game to matter. Everyone that you wanted to play good played good.
Yeah, if you didn't tune in and you're just jumping on now, that's a too long to read.
Cliff notes if you just joined it.
Cliff notes. Everything looks good. Bears win the Super Bowl, I think.
Yeah, I would say.
What it boils down to.
Nick Wright called it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but I think that is a good time of that. We got Hard Knocks tomorrow, so we didn't even talk about Hard Knocks at all, but maybe we'll talk about that a little bit next week. We'll definitely be talking about the game itself next week. So make sure to tune in. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow us on Twitter, share. We really appreciate everyone's support. Until next week, bear down, everyone.
Bear down.